This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. This is episode 189. This is your Money in the Bank prediction preview episode. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Strozinski. On today's show, jam-packed. When I say jam-packed, I mean busting at the seams. It's like John's pants when he gets excited after scrolling through my girlfriend's Instagram account. On today's show, we're going to talk about what might be happening with the women and SummerSlam. Of course, John Cena, rumors getting kicked around like crazy. And, of course, we're going to take a look at that Money in the Bank, and we're going to give our predictions. Of course, we're going to take a look at the biggest topics and trends and what's going on in the world of wrestling. And doing it with me, as always, he is the seam buster himself. He is the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's going on, Explosions?
Yes, sir. Finally, the fans are back at SmackDown. It's great to see. Nice, crispy set. I think it's great that Vince McMahon kicked off the show. I think that finally now we might have a chance as fans to get the product we want, because in the Thunderdome era, there just wasn't any way for the fans to show Vince McMahon that we hate the product. Now I'm looking forward to Monday Night Raw. When shit hits the fan, I fully expect some funky ass chants of like, this is boring, or change the channel, or the ultimate disrespect. When are we going to get our first AEW chant at Monday Night Raw? I can't wait to see it.
Oh, that's a good call. That's a good call. And look,
that you are a sign, right?
Yeah, and you're a guy who was part of the Thunderdome, so you understand how they basically coach everybody up and kind of walk everybody through, and how they would mute anything that you say or that you do if they don't like it. So good call there. AEW, the AEW chant is going to be crazy, and that's going to really piss Vince off when they start giving us some crap product. So that's a good call by you. That being said, we're recording this while SmackDown is unfolding. Look, you're a G, and I think you're driving right now, and we're recording. Like we're like role reversing here, because normally it's me recording while I'm driving, and now you're doing it. But we got SmackDown kicking off. It's got a brand new set. The set looks amazing. Like, it looks super high def. It is crispy. I think that's the best way to describe it. Our boy Kenny said that in our group message. It looks absolutely fantastic. Now, sticking with SmackDown, since we're already here and we're on this playground, let's talk about the Blue brand. Now, we're going to kind of allude to some things that are going to kind of take place here with Sonya Deville. But do you see any way in the next 2 weeks or so Sonya Deville inserts herself into the title picture against Bianca Belair? Because I don't think either one of us believes that Carmella is going to end up winning the women's championship here.
I think it'd be great. I think you're seeing the clamoring online like I did. I think it'd be amazing because of the fact that Sonya Deville has had this role now backstage. It's fine, but I think in the ring, you gotta have her do her thing. I think Sonya Deville would be amazing. And I think she'd be legit, maybe one of the first stars now to get back over with the crowds.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think she's done a really good job since she's come in. Like, we both agreed, her debut was absolutely the pits. It was not any good. She's come back. She's done this authoritative role in the back with Adam Pearce. She's inserted herself into different matches, or she's basically overruled in made matches is what I should say. It would be interesting to see what ends up happening with her and how they introduce her character back into the ring. But I think if you're going to do it, like you said, it would be really interesting to see her and Bianca Belair kind of tussle and get it on. I think it'd actually be a lot of fun to watch her basically be brought back, and for her to start with a champ like Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair, I think, makes people look really, really, really good in the ring, and I think Sonya Deville has a great athleticism. So I think it'd be a really good match. I think it'd be interesting to kind of see how that would play out. Now, I think for SmackDown, this is going to basically get your taste buds wet for Money in the Bank. And like I said earlier, we're going to give you a preview of that on this very show. But let's switch over to Monday Night Raw. End of Monday Night Raw, Bobby Lashley was all business. He was pissed. He opened up Monday Night Raw, got beat by Xavier Woods, was really upset, ends up going to the end, destroys MVP's set, throws chairs, he picked up a whole couch and heaved a whole couch out of the ring, ended up smashing everything to bits, got in MVP's face, and was super intense, super fired up, and was like, no more of this BS. We're doing it the old way. Do you think this change in Bobby Lashley, this more intense version, is a more interesting story arc for his character?
No, I wanted to see the ladies. I wanted to see him go down the road of more MVP sets, more situations, go more in depth, maybe even hook up with one and then come back and hook up with another and then have the girls fight. You know, you could have went more with that. But no, of course, Bobby Lashley as a legit badass is just the way to go, and no more hijinks and hilarity. Let it be known that Bobby Lashley is serious business. He's there to kick ass and take names. Losing to Xavier Woods, I think probably in terms of the storyline, will kick him off into a new era of destruction where he's not into hijinks and hilarity anymore. It's all business. Walk in, walk out, get the win, and handle your business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. I thought how intense he was gripping. I thought it was really interesting. I think that is more suited to him. The fun, the hijinks, the hilarity, messing around with the ladies. I don't necessarily think that's him. I don't think that works for him. Instead, I think what you get is you get a guy who's super over the top, a guy who is super intense, a guy who's in your face and is demanding. I think that is the best version of Bobby Lashley, and I think that works the best for him, especially if you're going to go in a different direction and say we were to get Brock Lesnar. I think having those two intense guys go at it makes for a great story. I think the other part of this, though, is the way it seemed like Bobby Lashley was telling MVP, look, this is your last strike. We get this right, otherwise you're done. Is Bobby Lashley done with MVP?
You can't. I think it's such a perfect fit. It's a perfect fit. I mean, I don't know. Maybe because MVP is such a character, do you give him a new set? No, I think that you got to ride this out and you got to find one more, because the Hurt Business was cool in theory. But I guess maybe the thinking is that you take the shine a little bit away from Bobby Lashley. You just need one more person that's just at the same level. And maybe if you're going to finally tease the end of the New Day, you know, if you want to think long term, Xavier Woods has been in the ring. You know, what better way to have the ultimate betrayal than Xavier Woods join MVP and Bobby Lashley? That's just me being creative here. But I think you just need one more person in this stable, and you can handle business. I love MVP in this reincarnation in his run with WWE as a manager. I love it. He's great, entertaining, and it kind of in like that smug kind of BS kind of mode, a la Jim Cornette back in the day. But I think that he's great, and I'm curious to see how this is going to progress going forward.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think it was a perfect marriage, right? You've got a very entertaining, charismatic guy in MVP. You've got a guy who exudes intensity with Bobby Lashley. And let's be frank, Bobby Lashley's not great on a microphone. But MVP is fantastic. Yeah. He could spin you a tale all day long. You're going to sit there like you're a child by a campfire listening to a ghost story. So I think it was a perfect marriage. And I don't think you should break it up. I think having Bobby Lashley be overbearing and being intense, almost like, but not quite to the degree of what Roman Reigns is, I think it is. I think it works pretty well for this. And having MVP not necessarily being the patsy, but being that mouthpiece, being the guy who listens to what the wrestler is telling him, I think that is a little bit more of an interesting story, and I think it helps get Bobby Lashley over more. And really and truly, when it comes down to it, that's what MVP's job is. It's to get Bobby Lashley over. Now, a guy who is extremely over on the yellow and black brand, Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe was the guest referee this week in the Karrion Kross Johnny Gargano match. Samoa Joe's intensity, we talked about this before, is what separates him from so many different people. Samoa Joe, as a referee in this match, I think was the most interesting part of the entire thing. It wasn't what was taking place between Johnny Gargano. It wasn't what was taking place with Karrion Kross. It wasn't even the match itself. It was the mind games and the playing between Samoa Joe and Karrion Kross. You knew at some point it was going to just explode. I think Samoa Joe is a complete and utter badass. And I love the fact that it looks like he's going to be able to get back in the ring. This is something we weren't 100% sure about. When he ended up getting let go by WWE a few weeks ago, I think we all thought he'd pop up in AEW, maybe return to Impact, and really get his wrestling career going again. It seems as though WWE has given him clearance. In this match, he ends up getting choked out by Karrion Kross, which sets everything up for Samoa Joe and Karrion Kross to be Karrion Kross's next big storyline. It seems like Karrion Kross might be getting called up to one of the brands here very soon, not 100% sure. But before he goes, it looks like Samoa Joe is on his radar, and it looks like Samoa Joe is going to be getting back in the ring. And I don't know about you, but I'm super excited. I think Samoa Joe, the version of Samoa Joe in NXT, was arguably one of Samoa Joe's most interesting and best character and storylines that he's ever had in his career. I love Samoa Joe in NXT, and I think kicking it off with Karrion Kross is one, interesting. Two, I think it would be fascinating. Three, you also have Adam Cole out there. And I think when I go to pose this question to you, because I've been quite long-winded here, just gushing over Samoa Joe, who would you rather have Joe face, Adam Cole or Karrion Kross?
No, absolutely. I was just wondering if there was a way Samoa Joe would get hurt being a referee, being that he is prone to get hurt. But thankfully he survives. And I look at it from this Samoa Joe as a character is so much untapped potential that it's gross, the manner in which his career in WWE on the main roster went. I mean, it hit the crescendo when he was beefing with Brock Lesnar, and he was quite believable as a person standing there toe-to-toe, despite the massive size. The massive size difference, Samoa Joe held his own. Now in NXT, it's the perfect fit. Really it is. And yes, I know everyone's excited to see him. Everyone pops for him. But legitimately, I'm concerned for his health and well-being because they weren't just minor injuries in WWE, and he's had a long career. The man's in his early 40s. I'm just concerned about the concussions. I'm concerned about what he actually can bring to the table. So I just hope that, yes, it should be Karrion Kross. It would produce the most money, the most intrigue. And I think that if Karrion Kross is on to the next level, giving the title to Samoa Joe is never a bad thing, because then he can just go right on to Adam Cole or feuds with other people as well, even revisiting a feud with Finn Balor.
Yeah, I like that thought process, and I think that's a perfect way to basically reintroduce Samoa Joe to the NXT fan base. Look, he's a badass. Karrion Kross is a badass. Karrion Kross is on his way out the door. Who better to take it off of him and to make him look good while doing it? So when he goes to the next level, he's not stunted at all. It's a guy like Samoa Joe. Now, let's kick on over to AEW. What did you make of Fyter Fest's first night? I think Dave Meltzer or maybe Brian Alvarez came out and mentioned that this was the first time that AEW has taken first place as far as ratings go on cable. So that's a huge deal. Fyter Fest, I thought it was pretty fantastic. I thought it was a really good show. I thought it was interesting. I thought you helped move a couple storylines along. I thought we had a really great main event, which I've got a couple questions coming out of that main event. But overall, I thought Fyter Fest was a fantastic show.
Hell yeah. When you kick off the show with the slobber knocker, and it's Carl Anderson taking on Jon Moxley for the IWGP United States title, I believe. And it was a good match. Carl Anderson, I love seeing it. The history, obviously the ties to WWE. And Carl Anderson, I think, is a character that's untapped potential too, because of his experience and everything like that. So for me, the nostalgia, I think everybody was enthralled with Christian and Matt Hardy. I thought, by and large, Fyter Fest just had everything that you would want. You had feuds that were right in the middle, feuds kind of concluding. You had a situation in which you saw the stark contrast with Cody Rhodes wearing all white and Malachi Black wearing, donned in all black. I thought the Fyter Fest they put out that was indicative of a brand that's looking to connect with their audience and give them what they want, a show that they can be proud of and be happy with. And anytime you can have a backstage interview with Chris Jericho, you're going to have a good time with it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And look, I thought the show overall was fantastic, and it was highlighted by our main event, which was Darby Allin versus Ethan Page.
Yes.
And I think coming out of this, you see a couple of things. I think the big thing is AEW realizes what they have with Darby Allin. Darby Allin generally this is a huge event, right? This is one of those AEW Dynamites, but it's pay-per-view quality-esque, and Darby Allin gets the main event. So it shows that AEW trusts him in those big money matches and those big spots, and they give him the time to work. And he's so over with the fans. Like, the fans absolutely love him. But I think something else that you kind of see is there might be something a little bit off with Darby Allin. There's no reason after you win this match to then jump up to the very top rope and throw yourself through the casket, because it was a casket match, with your coffin drop. I think at some point, whether it's Sting or whether it's somebody else, they might have to grab Darby Allin and pull him off to the side and say, look, man, you're taking years off of your career with all of these big bumps. There were bumps in this match that had me so nervous and so fearful for Darby Allin. And I get it. The guy's like a crash test dummy. He just bounces right back up and it's no problems. But at some point, all of this is going to catch up to him. Is there something seriously wrong with Darby Allin? And should somebody pull him off to the side and say, hey, you need to start thinking a little bit more long-term, especially now that you've kind of got your niche and you basically are over with the fans. You don't have to kill yourself every single match you're out there.
Absolutely. And I think that's what Jim Cornette screams about twice a week on his show, which is you can't have a high spot if every spot's a high spot. You have to kind of weave in a headlock, throw to the ropes. You got to slow down a little bit so that when you reach that crescendo, people are like, holy shit. But when you give them a holy shit moment every match, it does wear thin. And you got to remember, you can legitimately have a career for 25 years like Chris Jericho if you time the high spots perfectly. You're going to end up fading quick and getting yourself, out of the business because of an injury or a severe injury if you keep doing stuff like this. And I think, I would hope that the veterans like Christian Cage, Jake the Snake Roberts, Arn Anderson are going out there and telling these guys, look, do your high spot, but one of them, you don't got to go high spot, quick move, transition, high spot. Just let matches breathe a little bit and mix in some holds that can be exciting, yet transitional holds before you get to the move that wows the crowd, because you got to be careful. And I know the Mick Foley effect that everybody has. Oh my God, you sacrificed your body. But bottom line, we've all seen it and we've all been there, done that. Have a long career, and we want to see you out there. We don't want to see you on the shelf. And if you continue down that road, I think you're seeing it too. He's opening himself up for some major risk because of his antics.
Look, he's so promising and he's so young. I just don't think it's necessary all the time.
Nope,
in this match, there was, I think, 3 or 4 different spots that you really only needed to do maybe one of those. Definitely, you didn't have to do the coffin drop into the coffin. You got slammed on the steel steps with a power bomb. There was he pulled out a skateboard, and I think he jumped off the top rope onto the back of Ethan Page's back. Like, these are all things that could lead to serious injuries, and over time, the body can only handle so much, and then it starts to break down, and you end up like a guy like Conor McGregor, where you go into a match and a simple kick, you end up fracturing your leg, and then next thing you know, you're snapping your leg in half, and you look like you're made of glass. You don't need to do that. Is I think what we're both saying here.
Yeah, all right, absolutely. You're so right.
Let's look at some predictions here, because Money in the Bank is Sunday night. Are you excited for this pay-per-view? Are you excited for Money in the Bank?
Absolutely, I'm excited. It's a great pay-per-view for me. Money in the Bank always signified who's next, who could potentially challenge Bobby Lashley or Roman Reigns. And for me, I always enjoy the next potential superstar that has the opportunity to carry the Money in the Bank briefcase and potentially get a match, an opportunity for a championship. So I think that Money in the Bank for me has always signified freshness, newness, and somebody potentially taking the leap forward in their career. And I'm excited for this year's, no doubt about it.
One of the biggest things that Chris Jericho has ever donated, given, created, helped contribute to in WWE was this pay-per-view, Money in the Bank. It was started off as just a regular match where somebody would win a shot to cash in a title opportunity at any point that they wanted in a given year. It has now grown into its own pay-per-view. So now the kickoff show. We've got Rey and Dominic Mysterio versus the Usos for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. Who do you think wins this one?
Ooh, the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. I think the champions retain. Do you really think the Usos are going to get over after what's happened? I think you continue the feud with the brothers there, and you still have the champs on SmackDown.
Yeah, see, I think if Jimmy or Jay, or I think it was Jimmy, I always get them confused, didn't go out and get popped for another DUI, I think the Usos would end up taking gold. I think you could have a really nice storyline with Roman Reigns and the Usos getting the job done. Instead, they don't get the job done because one of them's a boner jam, and Rey and Dominic will end up retaining. All right, so we've got AJ Styles and Omos. They're the champions. They're taking on the Viking Raiders for the Raw Tag Team Championship. Now, again, mind you, card is subject to change. We're doing this about 2.5 days out, so card can always change. This is the card that we were able to pull right now as we're recording, and this is what we got to work with. So AJ Styles and Omos versus the Viking Raiders for the Raw Tag Team Championship. Who do you have?
Is it time already to take the belts off of AJ Styles? Yes. I think that we got to have new tag team champions. I think that you got to have a tag team that's united, that's together. And I think based on how the feud's gone, I feel like the Viking Raiders deserve the opportunity. So give me new champs, baby. Money in the Bank.
See, normally I would say you don't bet against AJ Styles because a wise man once told me that. That wise man was once you. That being said, WWE has done a really nice job of teasing AJ Styles versus Drew McIntyre. They've teased it about 4 or 5 times. We have yet to get it. I think this is a way that we get it. You break up AJ Styles and Omos. You can let Omos go do his own thing. Viking Raiders get the titles. And this is how you kind of get this going with AJ Styles and Drew McIntyre, which I think is best for both of these guys as we head into SummerSlam. So I'm going to go the Viking Raiders as well, just because of the storyline implications that we could get if AJ Styles was to drop the belt. Now, Rhea Ripley is the champion, and she's taking on Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's Championship. I'm going to go with Rhea Ripley on this one. She was on, I believe it was Bleacher Report earlier this week, and she was talking about how she's here and she's not messing around. Also, I think you could do a little bit more with Rhea. I think the way that things unfolded with Rhea and Charlotte in NXT, it really set Rhea back. I think this is a way to kind of get her over the hump, and I think you can get into some more interesting storylines. And I've got a little bit of a tidbit for you in news and notes about somebody who might be coming back that could be a really interesting storyline for Rhea Ripley. So you got Rhea Ripley or you got Charlotte Flair in this one?
Yeah, knowing I'm the man, I think I should pick this correctly. I think that it's got to be Rhea Ripley, and I think that it's going to be a great match, though, all the way around. I just hope it's not some DQ funky finish. Give us a clean finish for this one. It deserves a clean finish.
Yeah, a nice clean finish would be great. Now, we've got our Money in the Bank selections. So
here we go.
We've got the men's Money in the Bank, and then you got the women's Money in the Bank. And remember, if you get, and again, anytime we have to pick more than one person or one tag team, you get a bonus point here. So this could be huge. If you get the men's Money in the Bank right, you get the women's Money in the Bank right, and you win the whole damn thing, it's possible for a 3-point swing here. So men's Money in the Bank, you got your choice between Ricochet, John Morrison, Matt Riddle, Drew McIntyre, Big E, Kevin Owens, Nakamura, or Seth Rollins. Who do you think wins men's Money in the Bank?
Man, it's so tough because I'm drawn literally 50-50 between Riddle and Big E. And It's like I want them both. There are so many good arguments for both, because if you have Riddle, then you have the opportunity for so many behind-the-scenes skits where he's just like, I'm the Money in the Bank guy. And could you imagine him going up against Bobby Lashley and staring him down the next night on Raw? That would be hilarious. Believable, too, is that Big E could stare down Roman Reigns and have this opportunity. So I am so torn, so absolutely torn. But I have to go with Matt Riddle because of the fact that he's the next up-and-coming star. You have to strap the rocket ship on him. But if I'm wrong, if I'm wrong, it's got to be Big E. It has to be one of those two odds-on favorites.
It's funny because I'm going to go Big E. And after I got done talking to you and as you started to deliberate, I wrote Big E down before you even finished saying the name Big E. So I'm going Big E. It's got to be one of these two guys, right? It has to. You can't give it back to Seth Rollins. Nakamura, right. I don't feel like is over enough. Kevin Owens, I feel like we've been down this road a couple of times. Ricochet's been having great matches, but I don't know if there's enough substance for that sizzle. And John Morrison is John Morrison. It's what it is. So I'm gonna go Big E. You're gonna go Matt Riddle on this one. Interesting. Women's Money in the Bank match. You got Asuka, Naomi, Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross, Liv Morgan, Zelina Vega, Natalya, and Tamina. Who do you got?
I mean, does anybody really think it's somebody outside of Alexa Bliss at this point? I mean, it's like one woman and the rest like. She should just show up, blow a kiss, and walk out. And let it be a 2-minute match. You know what I mean? And just let the lights go down. She wakes up, and everyone's down, and she pins somebody. I mean, come on. It's such a disparity of talent and angle that if it's not Alexa Bliss, I think everybody will boo everybody out of the building. It's Alexa Bliss.
So this is what I'll tell you, right? I think Asuka's probably the best wrestler in this match, but I think her time is come and gone. All that being said, Zelina Vega is back, and Zelina Vega is interesting. I don't think Zelina Vega is very good in the ring. Nikki Cross has been getting a bit of a push, but still, it has to be Alexa Bliss. Like, nobody else in this match, I feel, deserves to carry it. Maybe Natalya, but Natalya only because of longevity, right? Like, that's it. Like, there's no other reason. Like, she's not interesting enough to really give that to her. So I'm going to go Alexa Bliss as well. All right, now we get into the big boys. We'll save what I believe will probably be the main event for last. So Bobby Lashley taking on Kofi Kingston. We talked about them doing a pivot to this a couple weeks ago. This is the direction we're heading. Who do you think wins this? Does Kofi Mania come back, or is it more Bobby Lashley?
More Bobby Lashley. He's got to sell the tickets. He's got to sell SummerSlam. It's Bobby Lashley, guaranteed.
Yeah, I'm going Bobby Lashley as well. And I have a little insight in news and notes about what might be coming for Bobby Lashley at SummerSlam. All right, Roman Reigns versus Edge. I believe this is going to be the main event. Roman Reigns, currently the Universal Champion. I don't think we change this up either. I don't think these title belts get dropped. I'm going to go Roman Reigns with this one.
No, absolutely. It'll great to see Edge. A lot of false finishes. Great match. But it'll be Roman Reigns selling SummerSlam, baby. No doubt about it.
All right, so just so everybody's aware, the picks. I currently hold a 4-3 lead over the Doc. We both have Bobby Lashley. We both have Roman Reigns. We both have Alexa Bliss. We both have Rhea Ripley. We both have the Viking Raiders. And we both have Rey and Dominic Mysterio. The only difference we have is in the men's Money in the Bank. And if the winner of this could get an extra point, I've got Big E. The Doc's got Matt Riddle. Should be a good one.
I can't wait to see it. It's going to come down to the men's Money in the Bank. And please let it be Riddle. Please. But I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of how this unfolds. You want some news and notes before we get out of here?
Absolutely. Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
All right. The 2021 WWE Draft is reportedly set to take place in October on the heels of a previous report that said it was scheduled for September. Now, according to Andrew Zarin of Mat Men Pro Wrestling Podcast, the draft will occur either on October 1st SmackDown or October 4th's Raw, or the October 4th Raw episode, or the October 8th SmackDown. So it appears to be happening very early in the month of October. Zarin previously reported that the draft would be held on August 31st for Monday Night Raw, or for SmackDown, and September 3rd for Monday Night Raw, but that is no longer the case. Now, we had talked about Sonya Deville earlier on the episode, and there's a report flying around that Sonya Deville may be the final entrance into the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. This will be interesting to kind of see how this plays out. There has been some discussion in the back about her possibly getting a significant push. The ladder match might be the place to kind of kick that off for her. We talked about her possibly challenging Bianca Belair, and I think we both agree that would be a really interesting way to kind of kick off her re-entrance into the ring. Now, Deville has not wrestled since SummerSlam last August when she lost a loser leaves WWE match to Mandy Rose. If you remember, at that time, she had that incident with the stalker who broke into her house. They had to take her off TV for a while. Now, John Cena is reportedly on his way back with WWE. His return is very, very close. It has been reported by Fightful Select that WWE sources have said Cena is scheduled to return to WWE programming by the July 23rd episode of SmackDown. The report states that the current plan is to have Cena appear on SmackDown. However, it also notes that it could happen a little bit sooner. Now, Cena hasn't wrestled since WrestleMania 36 when he lost that Firefly Funhouse match to Bray Wyatt. It'll be really interesting to see where they introduce him because that's how you know which direction WWE is going to go in. It'll either be Cena and Roman Reigns, or it could be Cena and Bobby Lashley. I think my betting money is on Cena and Roman Reigns, however. Now, WWE is planning a huge championship match for SummerSlam next month in Las Vegas. And this is part of the reason why I think we could get a Cena-Roman Reigns match, because this is what they could be doing with Bobby Lashley. Now, according to Fightful Select, the current plan is for WWE Hall of Famer Goldberg to make his return and challenge Bobby Lashley for the WWE title. The feud will reportedly get started on Monday night's episode of Raw in Dallas, as Goldberg is scheduled to appear. That'll be the first Raw with fans in attendance, and it's well over a year because of everything that's happened with COVID-19. Do you like Goldberg, Bobby Lashley for a match for SummerSlam?
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
I kind of thought the same thing.
I think Deadspin had the best article, which was Goldberg returning to take WWE into the future. It's like he's damn near 55 years old.
Yeah.
No, it's like I don't understand, because it could seriously be like, oh my God, we got Goldberg. This is great. And then you got everybody in the back behind the scenes going, this is absolutely ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So I'm disappointed at the highest levels. But
look,
he can't wrestle. I mean,
that's what I was gonna say. On top of it, the guy is brutal in the ring. He's a butcher at this stage in his career. So
he needs to be a valet now. Just come in and he could take someone under his wing. You got to transition him. I mean, you don't see Jake the Snake Roberts wrestling, is he? I mean, we don't see Jake the Snake headlining Fyter Fest. We got Jake the Snake taking on Jon Moxley. Tune in on TNT. Come on now. Forget it. Move on. But you said it. We joked several months back when we said he signed the contract, and it gets funnier the more that it gets announced, because they do press releases. I mean, just make it a surprise at this point. Don't release it, because every time they release it, everyone shits all over it.
Mm-hmm. It's like, but like at some point, right? Like, creative's just got to be better, and Vince has to be better. Like, get away from all these old hats, especially guys who are butchers in the ring, and start going with some of the young talent that you have. Like, you've got so many talented wrestlers, and at a time you gobbled them all up so they couldn't go wrestle in other organizations. So just let these guys wrestle. Let these, trust some of the young guys to be able to do their job. You trust nobody. Instead, you get whatever we're going to get for fucking SummerSlam. It's going to be a mess. All right. According to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, one idea that is being discussed is having The Rock team with either Jimmy or Jey Uso against Roman Reigns and the other Uso brother at WrestleMania 38 in the Dallas area. Now, given Reigns' success as a heel and his status as the face of WWE, couple that with the gimmick of being the head of the table in his family, a match against The Rock has been speculated. We've talked about this for well over a year now. Now, The Rock and Reigns are real-life cousins, and a match between them is one of the biggest spectacles WWE could realistically produce at this point. Like, it would be absolutely mind-blowing to see these guys in the ring together. And I think they all have a great look, and they're all good enough in the ring to be able to get the job done. Now, it's been over 5 years since The Rock's last match. Although that was an impromptu bout at WrestleMania 32 against Eric Rowan, and it only lasted a couple seconds. His last real match was against John Cena. Now, in that match, he ended up getting hurt, and at the time, he was filming a movie. So the issue is he's so booked up with movies, he's not allowed to wrestle these matches anymore because it's in his contract when he signs up to do a movie that he cannot wrestle because he got hurt and it delayed filming for one of the movies that he was working on a couple years ago. Now, Mandy Rose returned to NXT on Tuesday night by scouting the match between Saray and Gigi Dolan. And according to WrestleVotes, she may be back on the Black and Yellow brand permanently. It sounds like what is being reported is there's been a trade where Mandy Rose will go to NXT for Aaliyah. Aaliyah will now get promoted up to what is believed to be Monday Night Raw. Now, the timing for this doesn't make a whole lot of sense because Mandy Rose and Dana Brooks are in the thick of a women's tag team division match for top contenders to take on Natalya and Tamina and take them down for their titles. So a lot of this doesn't make a lot of sense. It'll be interesting to see kind of how WWE makes things work here. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple weeks, but watch for Mandy Rose to be back in NXT. Watch for Aaliyah to get the call up to either Raw or SmackDown. Now, finally, some big news for possibly Money in the Bank. WWE superstar Becky Lynch is reportedly scheduled to be present for Sunday's Money in the Bank pay-per-view in Fort Worth, Texas. Now, according to PW Insider, Lynch will be in attendance at Money in the Bank, but it isn't yet known if she'll make an on-screen appearance. Lynch's last appearance on WWE programming was on May 11th in 2020 episode of Raw when she surrendered the Raw Women's Championship to Asuka and announced she was pregnant. Now, Lynch has given birth to her daughter and now husband Seth Rollins in December, and speculation regarding her return has run rampant for months. So this will be interesting. Remember, we talked about what is possible for Rhea Ripley going forward, and we talked about what could possibly be happening with Bianca Belair. I think we both agree that the young faces for the women's division are going to retain their belts. And I think one of the faces of that women's division is Becky Lynch. And I think she could challenge both of these ladies, and they could have some fantastic matches. And it'll be interesting. I think that would probably be the biggest pop for at least me. Will be Becky Lynch returning at Money in the Bank. I think that would be fantastic. So I'm interested in that. I think that's a good possibility. That's going to do it for this week's Wrestling News and Notes. It was a great show. Doc, thank you for doing this with me. Thank you for adjusting your schedule and recording half in the car, half at home. You're the busiest man I know. So if we can squeeze a recording in while you're taking a dump, we'll do it.
Absolutely. Follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Can't wait. Follow along. We'll be tweeting during Money in the Bank. Thank you so much, guys. I can't wait to review one of the great pay-per-views on the calendar on next week's Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.